Hello everyone and welcome to episode 10 of the Moaning Show with me, HCD Rules 0001, and in this edition I would like to talk to you about political correctness and its other end of the spectrum, its complete opposite, free speech. Now, what's made me talk about this episode's topic is an event that happened several days ago when the public sector of workers was on strike, and I'll return to that later on. But political correctness goes against everything that is natural in this world, in my own personal opinion. There are people that, follow rules and regulations, they follow, religious texts, to the nth degree, and they also, they do everything to the letter. But there are some of us that don't have as much, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Upstickedness, so to speak. There's a distinct difference between, say, people like myself and those that watch programs or do things and wait for something to complain about. And that's basically what political correctness is. It's political correctness is here. And if you're that side of it, or if you're that side of it, you have to watch out. It's basically made people more susceptible to complaints. And I do apologise about that dog in the background, but it doesn't seem to shut up anymore. They're more eligible for shock, and in this day and age that seems to me to be a bad thing. You can't do anything these days without worrying about upsetting somebody. You can't say this, you can't say that, and it's just made people really soft. You can't not look behind you to see what's going on if you say something out of turn. And in my opinion, there's too much censorship these days. You say something, and like I say, you have to be careful of what you're saying. A couple of years ago now, a certain comedian and a certain television presenter made a prank telephone call to one of the country's best loved television icons from the 1970s. Now, you should actually know what I'm talking about already, but if you don't, I'm referring to the incident now known as Saxgate. And Saxgate was the so-called definitive moment where Russell Brand, the stand-up comedian and former television presenter, and Jonathan Ross, the television presenter, teamed up to make this prank call to Andrew Sachs, who plays Manuel in Fawlty Towers. That's what he's best known for. And they made some comments and snide remarks about his granddaughter. And the current state of political correctness and looking over your shoulder about what you're going to say, having to think about what you're going to say, is the direct result of the actions of Messrs Ross and Brand. You cannot say anything out of turn, you cannot do anything out of turn, and even if you do say things out of turn or you use foul or offensive language, as I have done in these moaning shows, I make no bones about that. But if you do, you have to put a little sort of a description or a little note NB at the bottom or whatever, and say this program may have offensive language or whatever. You see before stand-up comedy programs or even comedy programs, for instance Mrs. Brown's Boys, the Irish sitcom that's on well after the Watershed, which is when, you know, things can start being said and different things can be shown on the television. But with regards to what Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand did, it's made the public ultra aware of what you have to do. And like I say, you have to write a little note saying this may contain offensive language and things like that. And with the sitcom Mrs. Brown's Boys, before it starts, it says this program contains swearing and foul-mouthed offensive language. And before Saxgate, you didn't have to warn people about what was going to be coming. You know, most people, I'll go back a couple of videos to the Common Sense video. If you see a program or something in the listings magazines that says contains adult humour or whatever, or something like that, then you watch it if you want to watch it. But there are still people that watch these television programs because they need something to moan about, they need something to complain about. You know, it's all like that. But these comments made by Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross are doing a radio show, I do believe, on Radio 2. Both of them, you know, had problems after that. Jonathan Ross was given a 9-month or 6-month sort of like suspension, so to speak, and he was, you know, he left BBC, and Russell Brand never hosted a show again on any channel. So in a way, both men suffered, even though Russell Brand continues to star in, you know, movies and things like that. Jonathan Ross has moved since to ITV to sort of continue the same sort of show he was doing on the BBC, but it's a television chat show, it's quite popular, so ITV, being the ratings hogs that they are, snapped him up. But the current state of political correctness, because of this, you know, you can't say this, you can't do that. But I'd like you to answer me a question if you can. I seem to remember some sort of conflict that began when an Austrian who was leader of Germany, he took his country's armed forces and invaded the country next to them, and because of that the rest of the world got involved and millions of lives were lost, and it all ended in 1945. You know, I think it was really important, and you know, we've, as countries, our grandfathers, our fathers, whoever, they all gave their lives so that we could live in a free world. And this political correctness is not what they fought for, is not what our friends, loved ones have died for and continue to die for to this day. You cannot censor everything. It's just bloody ridiculous. It really is. But political correctness to me is a restriction on what we really want to say, what we think, what we do, and you just can't move for it these days. Now, like I say, back to the start of the video, I was going to comment on why I'm making this the topic for episode 10. Just recently, the teachers and, public sector workers have been on a one-day strike. It was Wednesday, the last Wednesday in November, and it was a comment made by television presenter Jeremy Clarkson after explaining the better day he had on the roads travelling due to the lack of people on the roads because they were on strike. They didn't go to work, so less traffic equals ease of travel. And there was a media storm in the UK because he said that everyone who went on strike should be shot. Now, Mr. Clarkson is known for putting his foot in his mouth. He's also known for, comments and remarks that are out of place in this political correct time. There were several hundred complaints sent, and this is basically what Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross have done. They've given ammunition for the pompous attitudes of several to, go against what is supposedly entertaining. Now, what's entertaining to somebody is not entertaining to somebody else. But what I'm saying is that these people that have to watch something to complain about something. For instance, if you watched an episode of Casualty and someone was dying in it due to blood loss and, internal injuries, I'm on about, and these people would complain that they saw blood, even though the story would be about someone dying of internal injuries and blood loss. These people would complain about it no matter what. These people, I will warn you for my foul language in this particular sentence. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These people need a fucking slap. Anyway, that's my verbal tirade out for a moment or three. So, these people have to complain about something, and the hundreds of complaints eventually turned into, at my last check, 21,000 complaints. Now, these are the people that are complaining because somebody else complained, Oh, did you find that offensive? Yes, I did actually. So how about if you complain as well, and then something might be done? A few things here, and the main one being this. Jeremy Clarkson didn't actually say that these people on strike should be shot. What he said was that he was in full support of what was being, these people were on strike because their pension payments per month would have to be increased by ridiculous amounts, and at the end of their working life they would actually be getting less out of it. And how is that fair? He said, I actually support these people that are on strike today. They are standing up for what they believe in. But because the BBC is a channel that doesn't wish to offend anyone because of what Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand did, because of those two gentlemen, and I'd use that word loosely, Clarkson said, because he was on a magazine programme at the time, to balance out what he had just said for one side of the coin, he made a comment on the other side of the coin saying, oh yes, well I don't agree with what they're doing, they should be shot. And that comment was met with silence on the show he was appearing on. But, and this is another point, the comment he made was for entertainment purposes. He was taking the mickey, he was taking the rise out of the BBC Corporation's fairness policy. On one hand, you have to say this, but on the other hand, you have to say this for fear of insulting someone or upsetting someone. And that is what's wrong with political correctness and the current state of it. And all the media picked up on was the comment he made about shooting those people who were on strike. And that is something that drove me, not necessarily nuts, but something that made me make this particular episode about political correctness and free speech. You know, because free speech is something that used to exist. It doesn't seem to anymore. You know, and people like Jeremy Clarkson will get caught out because it comes out of there before it comes out of here, you know. And like I say, he made that comment for entertainment purposes. He, as well as being a journalist, is an entertainer. The car magazine program Top Gear is one of the most successful programs in the world. It's transferred to, you know, America, Germany, all sorts of other countries. And it's an entertainment program. And he sometimes says comments that offends people. For instance, in the last series there was a comment about Mexican people, you know, violating people. There was a comment a couple of series ago about lorry drivers, how they kidnap and rape women, and you know, there were complaints and things like that. But what I'm saying is that these comments are made for entertainment purposes. They're jokes most of the time, and it's all wrapped up in a ball by these political corrective yobbos, so to speak, that anything said by people like Clarkson will be taken as an insult. It'll be taken as something that's upsetting, and they will complain about it. It's just their way. And these people that complain say, well, surely Clarkson should lose his job. And, you know, there's a couple of reasons why people like Clarkson don't lose their job. And the main one is because the people in charge of said communication channel and TV channel and, you know, The Sun and, you know, journalists and things like that, the main reason is because these people in the know realised that any news or any controversy makes news, makes television, makes things more popular. You have to take into consideration that, for instance, if you bring out a book and it's a fairly good story, you know, person A goes to rescue person B and person B is in trouble because of enemy A and things like that. If it's not good, it's not good. But if it's alright but it's not quite doing well, then say like if the author came out and said, you people are bloody idiots for not buying this book, that gets picked up by the media, hence more people read the book, hence problem solved. That's one reason why the BBC at the moment won't sack Jeremy Clarkson. Secondly, the Top Gear franchise brings in probably millions of pounds every year, not only to the people that make these things, you know, like books, shower gels, key rings, things like that, but it also probably makes a fair amount of money for the BBC, and that's another reason why Clarkson isn't being got rid of. Like I say, his slightest comment is frowned upon. But here's my view on it. Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May are the presenters of an entertainment programme. They are in my own personal opinion, they are the leaders in the fight for free speech. These people that complain at anything, these people that watch a television programme waiting to complain about something, every single one of them, I'm talking people that are so stuck up themselves that all they can do to keep themselves occupied, to keep themselves amused, all they do is wait to complain. All of these people need two things. One, they need to take a good hard look at themselves and find meaning in their lives. And two, I'm doing it like this for a reason, they need a right good kick up the arse. Free speech used to mean something, and in America they have something called the First Amendment, which basically means you can say what you want. You know, it's actually the main thing in America. You know, you can say this because our documents say so. But even that's falling to back burner. But they still have free speech out in America. Why don't we here? You know, it's a frustrating period to live in because, you know, people, if you were to take these people that do complain and do moan and do blah blah blah, you actually sit down with them, if you would talk to them and ask them why, they wouldn't be able to talk to you for 5 minutes, I don't think. Yes, these people complain because they have a right to complain. That's the world we live in. That's what we fought for in wars as a country. That's why we fought for. So we have a right to our own opinions. We have a right to do this. We have a right to do that. But don't we also have a right to not complain? Don't we also have a right to like what we like? By complaining and things like this, people are trying to force us into their way of thinking, and that is what I don't agree with. I don't agree with it one thing. Will we ever return to a non-PC society? Who knows? I'd like to think so, but it's that far in the consciousness of society that a lot of people would say, well, you know, shouldn't we just keep quiet? But if we keep quiet, then they've won. You know? It's something that needs to be addressed. I find the presenters of Top Gear entertaining. I find the show entertaining. You know, I've got some tips for those people that probably won't be watching this, but if you are, you know, you've got your own opinions, I've got my own opinions, and I don't want to be the same as you, you probably don't want to be the same as me. And to be honest with you, I couldn't care less. You know, like I say, I've got some tips. The first tip is, if you don't like Jeremy Clarkson or Top Gear or programs like that could have offensive words or offensive comments and, you know, remarks and things like that, for a start, don't pay any attention to them. They're for entertainment purposes. Secondly, they're made by people that do have a moral fibre, like yourselves. But thirdly, if you don't like programs, or if you don't like said comments and you don't want to see comments and remarks like it, don't bloody watch it. It's as simple as that. There's programs on the other channels that you can watch. I'm sure these people must like record the programs to watch later, so they've got something to do later on. Or 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Comment made about how women shouldn't drive because they're short and can't do anything. Fuck off. So, in all honesty, you've got to give some while you're taking a heck of a lot away, and that is why not only the presenters of Top Gear, but those people like those that make Mrs. Brown's Boys sitcoms that will offend and things like that, that is why they gain my support, because pretty much sooner or later, if they don't continue, then this country and probably this whole planet will be held back by people that say they believe in a better world, but in all reality all they believe in is the right to complain and moan and things like that. Like I say, this is HCD Rules 0001, and I'll see you next time.